Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, it's a great blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has given me and you the ability and tawfiq to participate in this gathering. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this gathering a source of guidance for all of us. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this gathering one of the means of our entry to Jannah, inshaAllah. Alhamdulillah, we have completed our discussion about the rebuilding of the Kaaba and what kind of symbolisms, what kind of wisdoms, what kind of lessons that we can derive from this particular incident with regards to the rebuilding of the Kaaba. There is just one more story, a very interesting story, before the actual advent, before the actual beginning of wahi, of revelation. And this story again clearly shows the character and the mannerism of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I hope that all of you, including the young boys who are sitting here, they will find this story very interesting, and they will really appreciate the stories and the lessons that we learn from this story. I know I only have 15 minutes, so I will wrap up the entire story inshallah in 15 minutes, hopefully inshallah. Now this story is about Zaid radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Before I say anything, there is only one Sahabi's name who is mentioned in the Quran, and that Sahabi is Zaid radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So every time if you name your child Zaid, if you name your child, not Zaid, Zaid, if you name your child Zaid, every time you call him, you will get 30 nekis, you will get 30 rewards automatically, because every letter that you recite from the Quran, you get how many rewards? 10 rewards. So if you name, in our Arabic grammar books, if you get the Arabic language books, all the examples, in all the examples, you will always find this name, Zaraba Zaydun, Duriba Zaydun, Yadribu Zaydun. So they always use this name as an example, so that whenever you say that name, you will get the reward automatically. So this is the story about Zaid radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Zaid radiallahu ta'ala anhu is from one of the tribes of Yemen. One of the tribes of Yemen. And he is a Qahtani Arab. I don't know if you remember or not, long time ago when we started our Seerah class, we decided, we explained and we learned that there are two types of Arab. Originally there were two different types of Arabs. One was Qahtani Arabs and the other were Adnani Arabs. Prophet ﷺ, is he Qahtani or Adnani? He was a Adnani. Zaid radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he is a Qahtani Arab. To cut the long story short, Zaid radiallahu ta'ala anhu's father and Zaid radiallahu ta'ala anhu's mother, they were from different tribes of Yemen. And these two different tribes had a love-hate kind of relationship. Sometimes they are good, sometimes they are bad, sometimes they are in good agreement, sometimes there is a little bit of fighting going on between them. One day, Zaid Bin Haritha radiallahu ta'ala anha's mother, whose name is Seerah, she took her son and she took her son back to her tribe. Just like the women, sometimes they go and visit their families. So she took her son and she went and visited her family. Now what actually happened, it just so happened that right at that time, a little fight, a little skirmish, you cannot even call it a fight, it's a little bit of skirmish that broke out between these two tribes. And the mamus, the distant uncles of Zaid bin Haritha radiallahu ta'ala anhu got really, really upset and they got really angry. And they did a really cruel thing. They stole their nephew from their own sister. They kidnapped their own nephew from even though she's a part of their tribe. She's a part of their tribe. But this was just the Jahili mentality that the son belongs to his father. Lineage-wise, he belongs to his father. So in order to get revenge from his father's tribe, they kidnapped their own sister's child. They stole him without his mother knowing anything about it. They stole him and sold him into slavery. Just like the story of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. Just what the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam did with those. So they are the mamus of Zaid radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the uncles of Zaid radiallahu ta'ala anhu. They stole Zaid radiallahu ta'ala anhu and they sold him into slavery. And he was sold in the grand bazaar, in the grand fair of Ukkaz. Ukkaz was the largest fair, was the largest souk, marketplace. And this marketplace used to take place after the season of Hajj. Big marketplace. So his uncles sold him in the market of Ukkaz for 400 dirhams. 400 dirhams. They sold him. And just because of the Jahili mentality that we need to get revenge from even though they are his nephew, but just we need to get revenge from his father. And they sold him to Hakim bin Hizam radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Hakim bin Hizam is the nephew of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha had given him some money and asked him to go and buy a young slave for him from Ukaz, from the marketplace Ukaz, because he needs a servant. He needs a servant at home. So Hakim bin Hizam, he goes to that marketplace. He sees this young Arab slave who is being sold at a very hefty price. 400 dirham was not a small price, it was a hefty price. So he purchases that child, brings him back to Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, and then Zaid bin Haritha becomes the slave of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. When she marries to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as a part of their marriage, she gifted Zaid radiallahu ta'ala anhu to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now all of these things, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam got married when he was 25 years old, right? He was 20. So all of these things are happening way before Islam, way before he became the Prophet. All of these things are happening. Now the father of Zaid radiallahu ta'ala anhu, you can imagine, you know, just like the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, just like exactly the things that happened to Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam and he lost, he is frantically looking for his son. He's sending his cries out, you know, he's going mad with passion, with grief, with anger. He's spreading news everywhere that this child is from this tribe, his features look like this, and he used to look like this when he was a child, and anybody knows about him, please come and tell me, and I will give them the price, I will give them the money, and so on and so forth. And it just so happened that after many years, during the season of Hajj, someone from that part of the world, from Yemen, he was doing the Hajj, and he saw Zaid radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and he recognized him. He does not recognize him, he recognized that his looks are more like the looks of his father's tribe. Because clearly he was an Arab slave, he was not a Qurayshi, and at that time most of the slaves were from Ethiopia, or from that part of the world. Now he's an Arab slave, a young Arab slave, and he's a Yemeni slave, his features look different, so they asked him few questions. And when they asked him few questions, they realized that this is Zaid. This is the boy that his father is looking for him, frantically looking for him. So when they completed their Hajj, they returned home, they went to Zaid radiallahu ta'ala anhu's father, and they said, we think that we have found your son. He's in the city of Makkah, he's in the holy city of Makkah, one of the grandsons of Abdul Muttalib. Everybody knew about Abdul Muttalib. He was an important figure, so everybody knew about him. So they said he is a slave to one of the grandsons of Abdul Muttalib, and his name is Muhammad. Now his father is obviously, he's overjoyed. He gathers all the money that he possesses. He takes one of his brother, and both these people now, his father and his uncle, they travel to Makkah instantaneously. As soon as they get the news, they travel to Makkah. When they travel to Makkah, they ask about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they were told that Muhammad is in Haram. He's in Kaaba, he's praying or he's sitting there. Now the father of Zaid bin Haritha radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he approaches Rasulullah. Amazing conversation. If you get a chance, go and study that story. I cannot tell you the entire story, I'm just telling you the summary of that story. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability so that we can learn Arabic language. And the ladhat and the sweetness that you find in this story, when you read it in Arabic language, you won't find it in the translation. So he approaches Rasulullah and he said, Ya Muhammad bin Abdul Muttalib. Even though his father's name is what? But he doesn't call it Muhammad bin Abdullah, he called him Muhammad bin Abdullah. He's ascribing him to his grandfather. It's a big thing. You know, his grandfather was a big, not his father, his grandfather was a big thing. So he said, Ya Muhammad bin Abdullah, you are from one of the most noble lineages. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with this and with that. And he keeps praising Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even though he's not a prophet. But he keeps praising him for another reason, that you are the people of trustworthiness, Allah has blessed you with this, Allah has blessed you with so many blessings. I'm here to take my son back, who was stolen and kidnapped unjustly and then sold into slavery. So he summarized the whole story. He summarized that Zaid is my son, he was stolen from me, he was kidnapped from me unjustly, and then he was sold into slavery. We are here to take our son back, and we will give you any money that you want, but please be generous with all of us. Please be generous to us, because there is only so much that we can afford. We don't have that much money, so there is only so much. So please be generous with us. Now understand that all of these things are happening in the time of Jahiliyyah. There is no law, there is no order, there is no court. Power belongs to the strongest person. Here Prophet ﷺ is in the stronger position. You cannot take Prophet ﷺ to the court. You cannot plead your case in front of a judge, in front of a magistrator. There is no judge, there is no magistrator. So you cannot do anything. Yes, your child was stolen unjustly, but you have to deal with it. If you want your child back, give money, pay ransom. And subhanAllah, I was reading it, it's so ridiculous, it's so funny. We shouldn't say funny, but it's so ridiculous. It is your son. In order to get your son back, you need to pay money. I need to pay money to get my son back. But this is a Jahili mentality, this is a Jahili law. So Prophet ﷺ said to them, subhanAllah, he's not a prophet yet. He said to them, you want me to let Zaid go with you? And they said, yes, that's what we want. And we will pay you any money that you want. He said, look, it's up to Zaid. I leave this matter to Zaid. If he chooses to go with you, then he can go with you for free. I don't need your money. But if he chooses to stay with me, then I cannot turn away from someone who is turning to me. If he chooses to stay with me, then I cannot turn my back towards him. I cannot tell him that you have no place with me. So if he chooses to stay with me, then he will stay with me. So they said, yeah, they are overjoyed. What else do they want? They are getting their son back without paying any money. For free they are getting their son back. So they said, yeah, Muhammad, you have done marvelous. You have done so much more than we could have asked for. You have done so much more than we could have expected. So they said, yeah, we are ready. Whatever he decides, we will go with it. So Prophet ﷺ called Zaid. Now Zaid bin Haritha, I still have 4 minutes. Now Zaid bin Haritha, you can imagine he was 25 years old at that time. When he was sold, he was 7-8 years old. And then now he is with Rasulullah ﷺ for almost 10 years. Before he was with Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, and now he is with Rasulullah ﷺ. So he's a grown man, he's an adult. He's an adult. So Prophet ﷺ called him, and Prophet ﷺ said, do you recognize them? So Zaid bin Haritha said, yeah, this is my father, this is my uncle. And Prophet ﷺ said, they have come here requesting me to let you go back with them. But I said that this matter is up to you. So now you have to choose between us two. If you want, you can go back with your father and uncle. If you want, you can remain with me. Very small story, but you can see the what do you call them? The scholars of Seerah, they have said this and they have mentioned this, that clearly this shows that Prophet ﷺ had a lot of fondness and paternal love for this child. He does not want to let go of this child. Forget about Jahili law. Prophet ﷺ is above Jahili law. He cannot say no because obviously he knows that they have a moral point. They have a moral point that this is our son, he is not slave, he is not born into slavery, so he should not be a slave. So Prophet knows that they have a point and he is above the Jahili law. So he cannot say no, but he said one thing. And morally it's the right thing to say. He doesn't want to let go of that child. So he said, okay, let him decide. If he decides to stay with me, then he will stay with me. He doesn't want to let go. He has this feeling of love, fatherly love, paternal love for that child. He has been raised in the house of Rasulullah for 10 years. So obviously he has this association with him. So Prophet ﷺ said, it's up to you. And Zaid radiallahu ta'ala anhu, instantaneously, didn't take any time, instantaneously, he said, my master, he could not call him Ya Muhammad or Ya Rasulullah at that time. He said, my master, I can never choose anyone over you. I can never ever choose anyone over you. Now here we need to take a pause. Probably you already know about this part of the story. And what happened in the rest of the story, probably you don't know. So we will do the rest of the story. My time is almost over, so I cannot go. But here we need to take a pause. Keep this point in your mind, that the child who was sold when he was 7-8 years old, his father who is there, he has this bond of father with him. You can see people who have never met their father for 40-50 years and then all of a sudden they discover their child. Especially in the West it happens. It happens in the West. Then suddenly they discover their child and they have this association with it. They have this natural love, natural inclination for their child. Now we know we are not living in the time where you have a master or a slave. But we are still leaders in our homes. We are still leaders. As a husband, I'm a leader in my house. As a father, as a teacher, as an imam, I'm a leader. My people, the people who are under me, do they love me the way Zaid radiallahu ta'ala anhu loved Rasulullah? And by the way, he's not even a prophet yet. So you cannot say, yeah, he's a prophet, that's why he's just like a normal human being like me and you. My kids, some of my kids are sitting here, my students, that's the kind of relationship I want to have with them. Yes, sometimes I have to be strict when they don't listen to me. When I need to make them read their supper. But at the end of the day, I always give them some candies. I always crack some jokes with them. Why? Because I need to have this kind. I cannot imagine a father walks into the class and I say to the child, do you choose him? And he will definitely run towards his father. He will never come towards me. No matter how much I love that child. He will definitely. But here's Zaid bin Haritha saying, I can never choose anyone over you. What kind of question is this? It's so obvious. It's you. This is the point that we need to understand, and inshallah we will understand. Last minute that I have, I need to take your opinion before I finish. Inshallah, the next Seerah class that we will have, because I'm going on I'm going to Pakistan to attend my younger brother's wedding, so I request all of you kindly remember him and all of us in your du'as. The next class, hopefully inshallah, if Allah keep me alive and healthy, we will have on 5th of September, on Tuesday 5th of September. And at 5th of September, the Maghrib time will be 8 o'clock, almost 8 o'clock, and Isha time will be 8:45. Now I need your opinion, what time should we do our Seerah class? I understand that nowadays we are doing Seerah class like